The fairness factor. At certain moments in life, we suddenly feel that something is wrong in a relationship. Maybe someone treated us unfairly, dishonestly, or disrespectfully. Sometimes the opposite happens. A situation ends, and only later do we think, why did I behave like such a jerk? These experiences can be understood through what might be called the fairness factor. Imagine the ancient symbol of justice, a figure holding scales. In Greek mythology, this figure appears in the form of Themis, the guardian of balance and moral order. Her scales represent equilibrium, the idea that actions and responses must remain in proportion. When the scales are empty, perfect balance exists. But relationships rarely remain empty. Every interaction places something on those scales: time, attention, help, respect, emotional energy, gifts, loyalty, and sometimes sacrifice. Healthy relationships function when both sides of the scale remain relatively balanced. This balance creates the feeling of fairness. In everyday life, this principle is studied in psychology as well. Behavioral researchers often describe similar dynamics through what is called fairness or equity perception, the sense that what we give and what we receive remain reasonably proportional. When this balance exists, relationships feel stable and satisfying. But once the balance shifts, problems begin. The first situation occurs when we give significantly more than we receive. We invest attention, time, emotional effort, or resources, but the other person contributes little or nothing. Slowly, the scales tilt. Our side becomes heavier. The emotional result is predictable. Resentment appears. People begin to feel exploited, ignored, or undervalued. Even if the other person never intended harm, the imbalance itself generates tension. Over time, resentment accumulates, and the relationship becomes unstable. The second scenario is the opposite. Sometimes we realize that someone else has been giving more to us than we have given in return. They provide support, kindness, attention, or generosity, while we respond with indifference or minimal effort. In this situation, a different emotion appears: guilt. We feel that something remains unpaid on the scales. This dynamic explains many small moral decisions in everyday life. Imagine that you leave a store and notice that a cashier accidentally gave you more change than necessary. Suddenly, the fairness factor activates. The internal question appears: should you return it? The amount may be small, but the scales feel uneven. The same mechanism operates in friendships, partnerships, and professional environments. People constantly evaluate, often unconsciously, whether exchanges remain fair. The philosopher Aristotle described justice partly as proportional balance in relationships. When contributions and benefits remain aligned, harmony is possible. When imbalance grows too large, conflict becomes inevitable. Modern psychology confirms a similar insight. People rarely demand perfect equality. Relationships are dynamic, and sometimes one person gives more temporarily, while another gives less. But over time, individuals expect a general sense of reciprocity, a win-win dynamic. Healthy relationships usually operate within this zone of perceived fairness. Both sides feel that their efforts are appreciated and returned in some meaningful way. This does not mean relationships must become transactional or calculated like accounting systems. Emotional life is more complex than that. However, a persistent imbalance slowly damages trust. One person becomes exhausted. The other becomes complacent. Eventually, both lose respect. This is why toxic relationships often persist longer than they should. People remain trapped in cycles of imbalance, giving too much, tolerating too little in return, or accumulating silent resentment instead of addressing the problem. The fairness factor explains why such relationships rarely remain stable. Balance eventually demands correction. Sometimes that correction occurs through communication and adjustment. But in other cases, the healthiest solution is distance. Not every imbalance can be repaired. Life constantly presents opportunities for new connections and healthier dynamics. When one door closes, new possibilities often appear. Relationships where reciprocity and respect exist naturally rather than being forced. The fairness factor, therefore, acts like an internal compass. It does not measure money or status, it measures balance. When relationships feel fair, trust grows. When the scales tilt too far, tension begins. And recognizing this balance may be one of the most important skills for building healthy human connections.